Thanks to our friends at The Motley Fool for sponsoring this video. Visit fool.com/Riiv to receive the top 10 stocks to buy right now. If you haven't followed the gaming industry coming out of the pandemic, now may be an interesting time to look at stocks with exposure not only to Las Vegas, but to Macao. Prior to the pandemic, Macao was the biggest gambling region in the world with gambling revenue of about 6 times that of the Las Vegas Strip. So if you think Las Vegas is really the big place in gambling in the world, it's not. It's actually Macao, and then Singapore would be second. But the pandemic and China's zero COVID policies have just absolutely obliterated the region. But there may be some rays of hope here. And so I want to go through what has happened over the last few years in Macao, what the future might look like, and then at the end, I'll cover a few stocks that could really benefit from a recovery. My name is Travis Hoium. Thank you for watching Riiv Investing. Please subscribe here on YouTube for all of my investment analysis. Let's start here with the data from Las Vegas. And this is data from UNLV. This comes from the Nevada Gaming and Control Board. So you can get that month-to-month data, but they do a nice job pulling this together for every year since 1984. So what I want to focus on is this second to last column here, total gaming revenue on the Las Vegas Strip. So that's the confines of this table. You can see that the numbers grow consistently until we hit about 2005. Then they kind of flatline until 2019. They're in that $5.5 to $6.5 billion in gambling revenue per year. Obviously, 2020, which is right here, down 43%, was just a disastrous year, and that's because that's when the pandemic hit. Casinos were shut down for about a month early in the pandemic, and then a lot of people just simply didn't travel to Las Vegas. But starting in 2021, look at this, record gambling revenue all time on the Las Vegas Strip, not just in the last few years, but all time in the Las Vegas Strip, and then up another 17% in 2022 to $8.3 billion. So not only did Las Vegas recover from the pandemic, they actually overshot and people are spending more money. If you've looked in the news or tried to book anything in Las Vegas in the last couple of years, you'll see that hotel rooms are more expensive, table games are more expensive, food is more expensive, simply everything is more expensive because it's in very high demand. There are a lot of things that go into that, but the broad trend here is that a city like Las Vegas, which is a entertainment capital, it's not just a gambling capital, is in really high demand right now, whether it's conventions or meeting up with people that are working remotely, having a centralized place to go. It's just a really good time to be a casino in Las Vegas. In Macao, the story has been very different. This is the data coming straight from Macao. They release these numbers every month, a day or two after the month ends. And this is going back to 2019. So keep in mind that the unit here is patacas. And then you have to convert that to US dollars. But we'll just keep this in the native currency right now because I think this explains the numbers really well. And this is million patacas, so this is actually 292 billion patacas. That's about $36 billion in gambling revenue. That's where I said this is about 6 times the size of the Las Vegas Strip pre-pandemic. What has happened? Let's go to 2022 numbers. That goes down to 42.2 billion patacas. That is just devastating, and the numbers really haven't recovered at any point during the pandemic, despite some kind of fits and starts. But what changed was in December and January, the Chinese government decided to give up on its zero COVID policy. So you can see here, this is the monthly gross revenue numbers, never gets above 6,300 in 2022 and really hovers in that more 2,000 to 3,000 number. What happens in 2023? Now that we have a couple of numbers here, 10,000, 11,000, we're starting to see some recovery in Macao. We're absolutely nowhere near where we were in 2019 when you were talking about 24, 25,000 per month, but we're almost halfway there. And this is a big recovery just from a few months ago. So this is really a sign that Macao might be starting to recover. Now, for investors, if it recovers at the rate that the Las Vegas Strip did and actually overshoots, we could be talking about an absolute windfall to casinos in Macao. So what are those casinos and who operates there? Well, the biggest operator in Macao is Las Vegas Sands. They have a number of casinos there, and they sold their U.S. properties, so they only have casinos in Macao and then a big resort in Singapore. The other ones that have exposure there would be Wynn Resorts, which has 2 casinos, also has 2 or 3 casinos in the US, depending on how you want to count their Las Vegas property. And then MGM Resorts has 2 properties in Macau, although that's a fairly small percentage of the company's revenue overall, given its number of properties that it has in Las Vegas and then in regional casinos in the US. And then the other one to look at is Melco Resorts. They generate most of their revenue in Macau, and it's an Asian-based company. Most of their exposure is going to be to that same Asian market there. But that's the kind of companies that operationally are really going to benefit from any sort of recovery in Macau. Now, the stocks have done relatively well over the last year or so, but keep in mind that if we overshoot record revenue from pre-pandemic, we could see these stocks move sharply higher. That's what we saw in the Las Vegas Strip, that these companies are now printing money now, and there's actually no place to invest it in Macau right now. There's no new sub-concessions. There's no new land to build on. So this would just be straight cash flow that they can return to shareholders in the form of buybacks or dividends. So this could be a really interesting cash flow play over the next few years. But I think this is one area to keep on your radar, especially if you're a dividend investor or a value investor. There may be a lot more value here than it seems in the gambling market. So something to keep an eye on. What are your thoughts on these gambling stocks? Have you looked into these before? I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments section below. Subscribe to Riiv Investing here on YouTube. And thank you for watching. I'll see you here next time.